What's up, Crowdfunding Nation? Salvador Briggman here, and thank you so much for hailing into this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On this show, we try to bring on real-world success stories, entrepreneurs that are really in the trenches right now, that are executing, that are hustling, that are plowing past those obstacles in order to get their dreams into physical form. They're trying to go out there and trying to ethically impact the world for the positive with their startup, with their physical product, their gadget, their gizmo, their board game, whatever it is. We talk about it on this show. Now, today's episode, we actually is a two-time guest when it comes to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. This individual actually came on our podcast in episode number 396. And you guys were awesome as a community. Thank you so much. And they decided to actually come back on the show and share even more learnings with you. So in episode number 396, they shared the method that they used to raise $307,389 with regulation crowdfunding. This is basically $300K with regulation crowdfunding on wefunder.com. So they basically went into how they were able to raise six figures using equity crowdfunding and able to use that funding as well to supercharge their startup. And they've made a lot of cool milestones and goals and things they've hit since that last raise. In today's episode, they came back on with a new regulation crowdfunding campaign, and they're also talking about some of their learning lessons since having expanded across 8 states. And in addition, they've raised $2.3 million in capital from a various bunch of investors. And in today's episode, what you're going to learn is not only how they did that, but also some of their advice for other founders and entrepreneurs in the audience who want to do exactly the same thing. So today's focus of today's episode is going to be on equity crowdfunding. We have so many different other success stories when it comes to Kickstarter, Indiegogo. And if you're listening to this and you want to raise capital for your company, pay attention because so much of the nuggets of gold are really going to be in some of the items that we're going to be talking about today. So I hope that you enjoy this. And in addition, if you want to learn more about equity crowdfunding, I do think, to be honest, wefunder equity crowdfunding is extremely confusing. There's a lot of know-how, a lot of jargon, all that kind of stuff that I don't really like. If you just want it to be made simple, easy to understand, right? In a step-by-step fashion. I have a great book out there for you called Equity Crowdfunding Explained. You got it. I put all of the information when it comes to equity crowdfunding into one easy to digest guide and book, and you can get your hands on this information if you want to today, and you can also get it for free. So Audible is doing a free promotion where you can get a free copy of Equity Crowdfunding Explained. All you got to do is join Audible and join a 30-day free trial. You can get a free copy of Equity Crowdfunding Explained. If you want to check that out, you can go to crowdcrux.com/equityaudio. That link is crowdcrux.com/equityaudio. That link will take you there and you can download the book. Again, crowdcrux.com/equityaudio. That is an Audible book. So you can listen to it on the way to work. If you're jogging or you're going to the gym, you're doing some exercise, you're cleaning your room, whatever it is, you can listen to that book at the same time. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode and discover how this entrepreneur, this female entrepreneur, was able to raise a successful campaign and also what she's learned with her second raise. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we have a two-time success story when it comes to equity crowdfunding. On episode number 396, we had on the founder of Kidcaboo, sharing how they were able to do a regulation crowdfunding campaign, raising over $300K with their project. And we are lucky enough to have Rebecca back with a new campaign and also some lesson learned throughout that process. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Salvador. It's so nice to talk with you again.
Definitely. So first of all, I would love it if you could reintroduce to the community just a bit about what your company is, and then we can kind of get into some milestones and some questions that I have for you.
Absolutely. So Kidcaboo is a B2C children's rideshare company. We're licensed, insured, permitted as a TNC, and we're spreading nationally at this time.
Exciting. And from what I understand, the last time we talked, you were doing a wefunder campaign. Tell me the story of what it was like after that project. What kind of happened after doing that raise?
Yes, and I know you and I were talking about approximately when that was. It's so funny. So much has happened since that time. overall, we've raised a bit over $2.5 million, including that, I think it was ultimately $379,000 during that time. At that time, we were in the process of I believe, launching our first state, which was Texas. But I believe we were still, we were in sort of a pre-launch phase then, operating and syncing tech and everything. And but we hadn't fully launched. And after that wefunder campaign was so amazing, what the response was to that. And we raised subsequently as well. And we, are now, spreading across 8 states with more in the works. We've had some really exciting partnerships with, industry insiders like, Harry Campbell, the rideshare guy, and
awesome.
Tusk Holdings, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've been making some good progress. When it comes to like the post wefunder phase, what's it been like having a bunch of like new investors, right? Because equity crowdfunding is so new. And
I know.
one of the big differences is you got a bunch of investors, right? Instead of just 1 or 2. What has that been like in the communications and the feedback and the support?
Yeah, I have to say that the support that we had from the wefunder investors has just been so moving, so incredible. The response, the feedback, just amazing. I think these are, the investors that came from wefunder were really people who embraced our mission. Many reached out to me personally, worked to create relevant connections where needed, and have really followed our story. Many of them followed up, emailed. I reached out to every wefunder investor personally, and I feel like I've gotten to know and work with some of these people now, and the passion they have for this mission has just been so inspiring.
Super cool. Super cool. And the fact that it also improves your networking. I mean, that's a really cool tidbit as well, right? When it comes to doing that.
Absolutely.
So, you, like you mentioned, we're starting with your first territory, right? When it comes to your application. And it seems like it's been growing since then.
Yeah.
What's 1 or 2 lessons that you've learned so far along the way, being a founder and really, taking this in strides and continuing to plow through milestones? What's 1 or 2 lessons you've learned when it comes to this?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting but very difficult time, since we spoke last, to be a startup tech founder. I have gotten sort of entrenched in, huge marketplace founder, tech startup founder communities, and have seen a lot of people shudder during this time, very sadly, right? Great marketplaces, but the economy really took a dive. And a lot of people have been affected by that. Kidcaboo was fortunate to be able to grow. Sometimes it's been very tough, like financially. Quite frankly, like inspiration from investors, support from investors has carried my team through a lot. I feel like of those times when it's sort of like, oh gosh, we're going to keep pushing through this because we're seeing
that resilience.
Exactly, and I think it's just been a moment in history, right? And I'm proud that we've pushed through. I think, like, I always say to people, like, if we were selling buttons and we weren't growing, like, I absolutely would be like, all right, look, let's just be smart, walk away. That's not been the case. And, I think we have like 7,000 total user downloads right now. I think our overall demand across the country, even in states where we're not yet launched, is around 13,000. And, and that's really amazing. People are adopting, embracing this, learning to trust. We've done thousands and thousands of rides without one safety incident. And that's been really remarkable. And I'm so proud of our team, for making that happen.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys are exploring in completely new territory as well. And the fact that you guys are continuing to grow is awesome. For the people that are listening and haven't yet taken the dive into entrepreneurship, what would you say on a day-to-day basis it's like to be a founder of a startup company like this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a single mom of two, and so that's sort of put me in a, I think, unique category and position to do this. I think it's hard for any founder, right, to do something like this. You really do need a lot of grit. You need to believe. You have to have people backing you who believe, and because there are tough times, right? And I think, especially as a mom, there have been times where you want to sometimes be like, should I just walk away? This is just so trying and everything. But when you reach a certain point, I think it starts to get easy or a bit, like you have the right team, you have the right backers, and you have people, users, investors, whatever, who you speak with, and you're like, this is sustaining me. Like, I see the bigger mission. I see how much people believe in this, need this, what the demand is, how we're changing lives for parents across the country and more. And it's, that's really, you've got to hang on to that sense of community.
For sure. So having a strong vision, having the resilience to actually go after that, it sounds like is incredibly important. But you've also, you really put your money where your mouth is, that you have raised, a significant amount for this company. For someone who's listening to this and is kind of wondering, like, how the heck, do you go about doing that? Is this through VC? Is this through seed investment? Like, can you just share a glimpse of kind of how that process worked for you?
Yeah. So looking at the overall, approximately 2.5 million that we raised, I think before you and I spoke, before we started the last wefunder, we had an initial user parent who invested 250,000. He invested in some subsequent rounds, but we've worked through safes at a time that it's been very difficult to raise. You really have to right now show numbers. I don't know that this is the optimal time for anyone to begin something like this, but I think, I think if you have something with demand and you can prove growth and show that there's money out there, but we did raise around 400,000, I think, ultimately through that initial wefunder. That was extremely, extremely helpful, propelling us through, some initial startup. And those people just believed in the mission. Like, we didn't even have growth numbers at that point. Like, it's so surreal to look back and be like, wow, these people really, really believed.
The mission. The vision.
Yeah, exactly. And now we have, like you said, put our money where our mouth is, if you will, and that is, that's amazing. And that's really helped us raise, the rest of that money. A lot of our investors, you asked if these are VCs, we do have some funds that have invested a bit and started to, and I think we have an upcoming priced round, and we're really about to start to delve into that VC world. But a lot of these people do work for funds, but they invested privately, because it was still so early. But it's nice to have those connections through funds, because these investors are really like, okay, what resources can I help you with as you prep for this next round? Like, what introductions can I make? And that's
so
amazing.
I mean, I love that you're being so kind, and you're sharing a bit of the secret sauce, right, that goes into this.
Yeah,
and
I've done that with you last time too, and I I loved our talk last time, because you really embrace that, and I appreciate the opportunity to help anyone again.
I think a lot of female entrepreneurs that might be listening to this are like, okay, so I got to have a big vision. I got to have a great business strategy. I have to have obviously the chops to pull this off. But when it comes to this, is this really about being a part of the right networks? Is it about proactively networking to meet those types of people? Is it just cold outreach? What do you think really puts you in the position to be able to succeed in that kind of environment?
That's a really interesting question, especially at this time in history. You almost can't. It's very, very difficult right now, again, because of the investor landscape, in the country, the economy over the last 2 years, whatever, and I think, you do really have to have people who see this come to fruition, who do believe, like, again, that investor who I mentioned, our first investor who was a user, saw how this product changed his family's life, invested in a few rounds, and then brought people in at a time when maybe it would have been difficult to get investors, right? And that carries you through. I think having people who use your service and believe in it, and see how it changes lives, how it's being adopted across the country. I think that's really, really, really important, especially during a time like this. I hope it's not always this difficult. It certainly wasn't in, early to mid 2021 to raise, but, then that changed. And so you really have to be able to show traction, product market fit, growth, et cetera.
So the more that you can get people to try out your product or your service, experience the benefits, the results, the more they're willing to be a little bit open up when it comes to even hearing the idea, maybe, or a pitch, it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like, one thing that's been I don't want to use the word magical, but it was the first word that came to mind about the wefunder, is that, even drivers, okay, because Kidcaboo pays very differently, and it's a very different driver user experience than Uber and Lyft, okay? And I respect those companies and, other rideshare companies as very much so. But, I think wefunder really allowed even, like, a lot of our driver users this platform to invest. And, like, it was so inspirational. Again, magical comes to mind, like, just to allow, like, our users to be like, hey, we love this. Maybe we're not an accredited investor per se, but we believe in this so much, and it's been so positive that we want to invest. And here's this wefunder platform that allows that to happen,
If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured, I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist, and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. So from what I understand, Kidcaboo is in Texas, right? Arizona, North Carolina, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Virginia, Florida, right?
Yes.
And you guys have a bunch of items as well on the map. So you're expanding rapidly here. And this sounds like this is sort of one of the reasons why you decided to come back, right, to the wefunder platform.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the first time we did this, like I said, I think people invested because they believed in this idea. And then now it's sort of like we've proven numbers, and it's just like, hey, look, we didn't let you down. Here is what we're seeing, and here's what we've proven. And now we have thousands and thousands of users, like, on our apps, et cetera. And this growing team, an evolving team. And it's, been so amazing to be able to, like, come back to wefunder investors and say, like, hey, look, here's what we've done. And quite frankly, the reason that we did this or started this second wefunder is because we knew we were going into this price round. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say about, like, projected valuation, but we have, reason to know and believe that it's going to be relatively high, and so we wanted, and we heard from some wefunder investors that were like, hey, we're seeing growth, through these updates. We understand that you're going to be raising at a, price round that's higher. Like, we'd love to put some more money in.
Got it.
And so I was like, all right, can we do this again? And we were able to.
So cool, so cool. And for those that are, thinking about this and like, okay, so Uber, Lyft, and trying to compare Kidcaboo to this, what is really the vision? If you were to paint the vision of if this rolls out nationwide, what is that going to look like for parents? What's that going to look like for kids that are using the app?
I mentioned that we're doing this B2C. Okay, I think probably the last time we talked, I don't know if at that point Hop Skip Drive had really started committing mostly to school districts or government programs, contracts, more B2B. Zoom certainly had, and we really were designed B2C, like because of my own personality, my experience, or team, we were able to nail these channels, and it's worked really, really well for families, parents, kids, drivers
Going to
love
sports
it.
practice, birthday parties, art classes,
whether it's
all that.
school, whatever, in different states. And but I have to tell you, because of our driver user base and how they've embraced our pay structure and the way that we communicate, and again, this is certainly not to knock Uber and Lyft, but, I hear from a lot of Uber and Lyft drivers every time I'm in one. I'll be like, what's your experience? How's it going? What do you like? Not whatever. There's maybe not the communication channel support or hey, let's find rides close to you. Let's really personalize and, optimize your experience. Drivers are everything, and so it's been really, really positive for them. And so at some point it was sort of like, look, we have the ability to do this, the insurance, the apps. Why don't we just maybe start expanding this beyond kids and transporting other people? At first it was sort of like maybe elderly people who didn't want to get into an Uber or Lyft per se, or, college students whose parents are worried. You hear horror stories like recently USC,
having greater safety controls.
Exactly. Yeah. More vetting. And then, the drivers are just so well paid. You never have somebody who does a $3 ride for Kidcaboo. We have a high minimum for, and drivers love that. And so they've gravitated towards this. And I think, they feel safer as well, the drivers in Kidcaboo's, given our communication, our vetting.
So your plan is to expand the demographic of people that are using it. And it sounds like maintain that kind of high quality when it comes to the safety controls, right?
Exactly. I think there's such a need for that. And also just the reliability of people showing up when they are scheduled to show up, and, and our pay structure and our monitoring process, et cetera, allows, that to happen and gives people that confidence in their rides.
Very cool. Very cool. If you had to put it into words, since the last time we talked and you've been growing, what is one thing that you are the most proud of, or what's a story that sticks out in your mind of one of your users?
Oh my gosh. That almost brought tears to my eyes when you said that. Our team that has pushed through at this difficult time, we went from salary, and I was always very big on bringing the right people in, paying very well, allowing people to have flexible work hours, work from home, whatever. But given the economy, there were times when we went equity for salary, and people had to push through, and it was difficult sometimes. And so I think just that the team saw the results, the impact this was having on the lives of our users, drivers, riders, families, whatever. And they believed, and they kept pushing, and they saw the growth. And sometimes it was very, very difficult. And we've had to have a few evolutions in staff, because one, we're growing. We need more, maybe early mid-stage experienced staff. But people have worked even in the face of this economic hardship and push through because they've seen the impact. And I think that's just been so inspirational, motivational. I would go to the grave for some of these people. They've just push through so much.
So
And
the
I'm so
commitment of the
grateful.
team. Yeah, it sounds like the commitment of the team to the vision and being willing to push through adversity. And even if it's difficult and sometimes being willing to plow through those obstacles, right, has been kind of your spotlight when it comes to that, or your.
Yeah, definitely.
So I do have one or two more questions, for some of the entrepreneurs in the audience. First of all, we'll make sure I do have one or two more as well when it comes to the wefunder, but for those that are listening to this and like, okay, so it's incredible, this female founder was able to raise money, was able to move through these obstacles. Do you feel like there are any habits that you've picked up that have allowed you to succeed in this difficult environment? One you mentioned was resilience. Do you feel like there's any others that really contributed to your success so far?
No, I think resilience, grit, really it sums it up. That's a word my father uses to describe me. And, it's hard in any environment. Even without this economic landscape that we're in right now. And so you really do have to push through, and you do. And it's so funny, the early years, like January 2019 to probably just this past January, like I was not sleeping sometimes. I mean, it is a very difficult thing to do. There are times when you have no reason at all to push forward, and you have to, if you believe, if you're seeing the growth, if you're seeing the need, if you're seeing the demand and the impact, and then at some point it becomes easier. You start to build a team, and you have that support. And we have three separate companies: a holdings company, an operations company, and then the tech company. And so at some point I was able to really step back from the operations and tech elements and focus on the holdings company, which is of course like investment and things like that. And you're able to have more of a family life. And, I was able to be very present for my kids, but keep going as well, right?
Would you say that art of team building is your superpower? Is that the thing that you think stands out when it comes to your skills?
I think resilience, really, again, that grit, I do think it's important to like have the right team, to build the right group of people. Oh my God, that has proven absolutely game changing. I think if there's one skill, you can't do this if you don't have grit and resilience. You will get knocked down every single time. And if you can't embrace and learn from failure, I don't know that it's possible to do something like this,
Well said. Well said. Well, first of all, where can people go to learn more about Kidcaboo and also learn more about the wefunder campaign?
Yeah, so the wefunder page, I think, has an updated or somewhat updated deck, shows our growth. We really have only been doing this now officially for about a year and a half, maybe, and so we had early growth, right? And the start of this past school year, this past August, was sort of what I considered our official, real kickoff, if you will. And when we were really all in, tech and ops jibed, everything was working really well, and it was time to start expanding and growing. So you can see all the numbers on the wefunder page, which is wefunder.com/Kidcaboo. And then also, our website, which is being redone, but, you can learn there. And of course, download the apps, if parents or drivers are interested in working with us, in states where we're active currently.
Okay, great. So I'll be sure to link those up in the show notes, description of this episode. I have one more question for you when it comes to this process and this journey which you've been going through. If the old you could see the new you, what do you think the old you would say in terms of the growth you've been experiencing?
Oh my God. I think I said last time to you, I think you asked some of the most poignant questions I've ever been asked. And that's an amazing one. I do think I always sort of had that, you get knocked down, you stand up. For some reason, it never bothered me again. I always embraced failure. That's been true of me for as long as I can remember. But this experience has just really just instilled that so much in me, how, and my children also, that resilience. I think you learn so much. And I can't imagine how this experience has impacted my 11-year-old daughter, for example, just seeing how much you can get knocked down, stand up, be okay, learn, grow, benefit, it really teaches you about your strength. And, during this entire thing, like Kidcaboo's been 5 years plus, now since its ideation, inception. And I mean, I was separated from my children's father during that time, and I still had to push through, right? You really do see, I mean, looking back after you asked that question, I mean, God, I hate to pat myself on the back, but like, wow, that does require so much strength.
Yeah. I mean, you've definitely been unleashing some growth here with the company and also with yourself. And I look forward to seeing where you guys go with this raise and also in the coming years here when it comes to your plan.
I am so grateful for your interview always. It's just so reflective and inspirational. And I love what you're doing for your listeners as well. And just trying to help them be inspired to
totally appreciate that. Totally appreciate that. And also we appreciate your honesty and your candor when it comes to what's worked for you and some of the secrets to your success. So thank you so much for sharing that. Rebecca, Absolutely. It's been awesome. Appreciate you coming on the show and look forward to your coming years here on wefunder.
And we'll stay in touch. I look forward to following you as well and your growth. Congrats on everything. And I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Oh man, I think that this episode for me, I took away so much when it comes to just leveling up, right? In order to actually expand your potential, to become the person that you've always wanted to be, you got to be willing to face your fears. Confidence comes from taking action. It comes from getting things done. Whether it's you want more money or you want to have bigger status, you want to have a greater impact on the world for the positive, or you even just want to build a team that you can do really cool work with that you've always been passionate about and that you've always wanted to do. Whenever you want to grow in your life has to become one of discomfort. And I think that when it comes to equity crowdfunding and doing a lot of calls and also talking with a lot of students, the number one thing that tends to hold them back is this concept of procrastination. You got to be willing to go through that pain, learn about equity crowdfunding, learn about crowdfunding, right? To be able to get your project out there, to be able to get funding from the crowd, to be able to launch a new startup, be able to hit those milestones that you've always dreamed to. You got to go in, but you also got to be prepared. And that's really what I've dedicated my entire life to. Since getting into the crowdfunding industry back in 2012, I've really tried to put out as much quality education and content as possible to make it easy. So that way you can just show up, you can apply what already works, and you can experience the benefits of those lessons. So if you want to take a couple of steps towards that, first of all, I have a great free course out there, which you can check out at crowdcrux.com/equity course. That link will take you to a free course. You can enter your name and email, and I'll start sending some emails on equity crowdfunding, how it works, how to actually launch a campaign, some of the marketing tactics as well that go into getting funding, all the things that you really need to know in order to launch a successful equity crowdfunding campaign. Go and check that out at crowdcrux.com/equity course. Now, if you're really one of those people that's willing to make a decision, you're willing to take control. If you're at that point in life where you're like, you know what, gosh darn it, I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? And I want to say yes to life. I want to stop thinking small. I want a bigger, grander vision for what's to come, something stronger, more rich, more full. But I just know that I need a little bit of a guidance in order to get to that point when it comes to my business, my startup, my ideas, whatever it is. I got a great option out there, which is basically to be able to book a one-on-one individual coaching call with me, with Sal. And if you want to learn more about that option, all you got to do is go to the link I'm about to mention, fill out this form, tell me more about what you're trying to accomplish, more about you, more about your skill sets, your goals, your passions, all those kinds of things. And we can get that call scheduled ASAP. And this is also an investment to do this, but it's one of the best times to actually invest in yourself and to put this entire process on turbocharge. If you want to go and check that out, go to the link I'm about to mention at crowdcrux.com/coaching. Again, that link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you did enjoy it, Give me a thumbs up if you're listening to this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please leave a positive rating and review so we know that you enjoyed this episode. We can put out more ones just like this, and go and dive into the next ones, because there are so many great episodes in the hopper when it comes to archives of this podcast that you can learn from, that you can literally hear other entrepreneurs exactly what's working for them. And hopefully the same will occur with you and you come back on as maybe a guest of this show. Thank you so much. My name is Salvador Briggman, and I'll see you next time.